You're listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. Tuesday, April 16th, you're listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. We have a severe weather potential over the Chicago area today, including other portions of the Midwest. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you all of this information, which comes from the National Weather Service of Chicago, along with other national weather services. But first, we're going to focus on the Chicago area. We have a developing storm system, which has moved out of the Colorado area, has moved into the Nebraska area this morning. We have a warm front, a well-defined warm front that moves from the low-pressure center all the way into the Mississippi River Valley, going eastward, and it is starting to push northward of the Quad Cities area. This might be the focus point for possible thunderstorm development around that front late this morning, but probably to the north of Chicago. This thunderstorm activity, if it does develop, is not expected to be severe, although there could be a slight hail threat. This is not a main thunderstorm complex. The main threat is going to come from an area of thunderstorms that's currently over the Kansas-Nebraska area. These storms are expected to continue to move northeast, eventually making it into Illinois. The current thinking is that the severe weather threat will be highest after 5 o'clock p.m. for areas along and west of Interstate 39 corridor. This is well to the west of Chicago. The storms hit eastern Illinois and northwest Indiana after 7 o'clock p.m. tonight. The storms are expected to be in a weakening phase by the time they hit here. But severe weather is still a possibility, especially by any organized storms, and this includes a threat for tornadoes. Here's another thing. You see, those storms, which right now, at least a couple hours ago, were over to Kansas and Nebraska, headed into the Iowa area, you know, that's going to be a pretty significant threat of severe weather for that area. But what's even a higher significant weather threat for portions of Iowa is going to be the storms that develop on the heels of this thunderstorm complex, the one that's currently ongoing, which will probably intensify as the day goes on and the day becomes more unstable. The atmosphere, there's more instability as the heating of the day gets going. But on the heels of this thunderstorm complex, another thunderstorm complex is expected to develop across Iowa, and this one will likely have a higher severe thunderstorm potential, severe weather potential, including tornadoes for that area. This is the one that will include the dry line, but the dry line will be a dissipating dry line to the point where many don't even consider it a dry line so much. It's a minor dry line, and this has been clearly expressed by the St. Louis National Weather Service. The thing about this more significant threat is that there's higher confidence in that thunderstorm complex completely waning by the time that hits the Chicago area. So we basically dodge that bullet. So we have round number one, we basically have dodged that bullet. That is not really much of a bullet, and the thunderstorms themselves will probably be north and west of here, but one does need to look a little bit more into that. But there is no severe weather potential with that one. You know, you can never say never, but there could be some hail. The second one is the one that the National Weather Service is focused on most for the Chicagoans. The National Weather Service is most concerned about the second complex, which arrives in East Illinois after 7 o'clock p.m. That will likely be in a weakening phase. The third one, which, you know, back in Iowa, this is really considered all one large thunderstorm complex. The third one, which will be developing on the heels of the second one, basically will be non-existent by the time it reaches Chicago. Forecasters say that overnight will be a lull in the precipitation. The environment is expected to become capped overnight tonight, so no precipitation and no thunderstorms, except for the possibility of that thunderstorm complex not weakening completely. We could have some leftover storms, possibly, one map shows storms possibly through 10 p.m. But, that's, again, conditional. But after 4 o'clock a.m. in the county warning area, which includes even Interstate 39, that's when we have the final batch of storms, which is associated with the cold front. So that's going to be a strong batch of storms. The severe weather threat is not as high as the one today, but there is a severe weather threat. So the severe weather threat on a scale of 1 to 5, the National Weather Service makes it pretty clear. The storm batch number 1, a 0. There's no severe weather threat at all, according to that chart. For the severe weather threat this evening, it's a 2, and the severe weather threat for tomorrow morning is a 1. The precipitation coverage is expected to be most widespread this evening, and the flash flood risk is for this evening and again for tomorrow. It's at a 1 for this evening and for tomorrow. I don't think there's any flash flood risk for the ones this morning, which may not even occur. So we have tomorrow morning those storms for most of the states here in the Midwest. It's really not expected to be much of a severe event. But as that complex moves east, especially east of Interstate 55, the chances for severe weather actually go up. So that's going to be kind of the opposite of the storm complex for today, likely due to daytime heating. So Chicago kind of lucks out. Both thunderstorm complexes, which are capable of producing severe weather, both of them are occurring between sunset and, sunrise, maybe a little bit after sunrise for tomorrow. So we do have a severe weather threat. The severe weather threat is less than what it is for the rest of the Midwest, as usual, here in the Chicago area. Here's another variable which the National Weather Service has not mentioned, but it's something that I've picked up on, and that many times right before a warm front moves through and after the warm front moves through, we are under southwest winds that bring in warm, humid air. The winds are expected to be really windy today and across many cities in the Midwest. Behind the front, strong east and southeast winds are expected. In fact, we have portions of the Midwest, such as in the state of Iowa, which are under a high wind warning and wind advisories for today due to these strong winds. Now, the wind direction, I can tell you here in Chicago, is forecasted to be east and southeast. So this is another limiting, it puts a denter in the thunderstorm development, at least for lakeside areas, including Chicago. At least one would think that there's been a pattern here that when winds come in off the cold lake this time of the year, the thunderstorms tend to weaken. It's very common to hear warnings issued for even places as far east as not just West Rogers Park, but even East Rogers Park, all the way up to the lake. And then a few minutes later, there's another thing issued by the National Weather Service canceling that warning. The storms which have moved into the area are now below severe limits, which has allowed this severe thunderstorm warning to expire, or tornado warning to expire. Nonetheless, people should always be on the lookout and prepared for severe weather. We likely will see some severe weather and some strong storms. Even when severe storms are weakened, we're still dealing with strong storms. That's the forecast. That's the deal for here in the Chicago area for today. Today we do have a wide range of temperatures, ranging from probably not even reaching 60 when you go to the north of Chicago due to winds off the lake, to temperatures well into the 70s when you get to places like Kankakee, probably even portions of Chicago as well. And we also will see higher dew points for today. We have another relatively mild day on tap for tomorrow. And again, we do have the possibility of a heavy thunderstorm early. One thing to point out, this does not apply for Chicago, but it does apply for the rest of Illinois. Much of the rest of Illinois is that Saturday night, this Motzei Shabbos, but especially Sunday morning, we're looking at the possibility for frost in some locations. So the growing season has started, so this could be somewhat significant for people living on the Corn Belt in areas like that. The Chicago area, again, will be avoiding that particular hazard. We also will speak about briefly what's going on in Kansas, because we've been speaking about this. That's regarding the blowing dust hazard. So the National Weather Service in Goodland, Kansas, is still does not have clarity on exactly what the blowing dust hazard will be. How high will that hazard be? And that's due to the chances of rain. It has not occurred yet. There are counties, they're thinking right now is that the blowing dust will be most significant for areas south of Interstate 70. But if there should be no rain to the north of Interstate 70, there would be significant blowing dust in that area. We have high wind warnings in effect for that locations, 35 to 45 mile per hour sustained winds with gusts to 65 miles per hour, even 70 miles per hour, says the National Weather Service for those locations. Very, very strong winds, which will be blowing up dust. We also spoke about the lapse rates which are necessary for significant dust. So it's not just the dry dirt and the strong winds. You need to have the lapse rate, which is a measurement of how quickly the air is rising. So you need to have a significant lapse rate in the lower atmosphere, but a stable lapse rate in the higher atmosphere. Probably none of this is necessary except for the dry dirt and the winds, but those are the types of things that add on to it. If you have a high lapse rates in the higher atmosphere as well, the dust just gets blown well into the upper atmosphere as well, so it's not really as bad. Okay, that's the story for the Midwest today. And if you really want to see all of the details thoroughly, you could always look up on the National Weather Service website the forecast discussion for any particular city. And it should be pointed out that the Storm Prediction Center has portions of our country, including the northwest or west, the northwest portions of Illinois, even the west central portions of Illinois, northeast portions of Missouri, and the eastern portions of Iowa within an enhanced risk for severe weather. That's a 3 out of 5, and that means there's the 30% chance, or 25 to 35% chance for severe weather within a 25-mile radius. When you have those things, it usually ends up meaning 30% coverage. So it's usually a definite there will be severe storms, just not every county will get hit. The majority of places don't, but strong storms might occur. A widespread rain is expected across the area. 1 to 2 inches of rainfall expected here in the Chicago area when all is said and done. When you head off to the areas to the west, portions of Nebraska expected 1 to 3 inches of rain expected there. And when you head down into Kansas, we've mentioned there could be areas that remain completely dry, and that's something which is not so normal, and that's why we would have more dry dirt than usual. As the National Weather Service there has pointed out, any area where there's rain, they're not expecting there to be any blowing dust at all. So what makes this unique is you have strong winds, the strong windy conditions behind the front, that's normal. The winds in this case are stronger than normal due to the high pressure gradient, which is due to the strong ridge coming in on the backside. The low pressure is strong, but it's nothing super significant. It's the high pressure that's coming in quickly behind this low pressure that's building in. That's a high pressure gradient. It's going to increase the winds. And we have the other thing, which is not 100% normal, is the dry earth. The dry earth that we have over there due to drought conditions, which in portions of Colorado, if you look on windy.com, you'll see we have areas under an extreme drought, a severe drought, portions of Kansas under a moderate drought, other areas in Kansas under a light drought. But if you look at the soil moisture, it's at 0% for a large area of that part of the country. So the combination of that is why the blowing dust risk is higher than usual. We have a fire hazard warnings, red flag warnings in effect for much of the plains, Texas, those locations due to really dry air coming in today, drier air coming in tomorrow, strong winds, warm temperatures. All of that will combine to produce ideal rapid fire activity. I wish everyone a wonderful day. Stay safe. Remember, the best way to stay safe overnight is with a NOAA weather alert radio where the alarm goes off. The Midland brand is a great brand. And during the day, the Storm Shield app There's some other apps as well, but the Storm Shield app is recommended. The phone will alert you to the various warnings. Even during the day, the weather radio is more ideal, and it's the tornadoes which are usually considered most deadly. In fact, they even have NOAA weather alert radios which are just for tornadoes, and you could set many of these radios, the ones which have the same technology, the SAME, you could set them for your particular county only, and you could set them to only go off if there is a tornado. Stay safe, have a wonderful day. Thanks for your interest. You've been listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. This podcast can be found on almost every platform where podcasts are available.